Here.
As always, we start with invocation from Mr. Gene Goodsky. Miigwech, Jean, thank you. Okay, we'll move on with the approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions? Anybody? If not, no, I don't think he is. If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Ray, is there a second? Seconded by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. Approval of the minutes from a special meeting held on May 7, 2018 in Nett Lake. You want to do them together, or? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the special meeting from May 7th, 2018? Moved by Ray, is there a second? Second by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. We've got the minutes for May 16, 2018 at Lake Vermilion. Page 2. At the bottom of page 2, I think it's just a typo error. Moved by Travis Morrison, seconded by David Morrison Sr. to approve the change in the new moon bylaws to change the quorum from 5 to 3 and to combining the secretary and treasurer positions. It says combing, but it should be combining. No combing, okay? If there's no other corrections to the minutes, I'll call for a motion to approve. The May 16, 2018 meeting minutes.
Move.
Moved by Travis, seconded by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. Cor?
First, we have introduction of new staff.
There is. Kim. Good morning, Kim.
We have two in accounting, if you want to step up, ladies. First, we have Gabby King, that's been with us for a while. That's the, she's the receiving delivery clerk, and she's doing fabulous, learning lots. So this is Gabby here. And then we have Beth Cook, who's our new program accountant that's been with us for a couple of weeks also. And she's been thrown into the fire right away too, so welcome.
Welcome, girls.
Word, Beth.
Congratulations. Good morning. Nice to see you. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning. This morning I have Whitney Humphrey. She's a victim's advocate.
Word.
And then Dave L. Jones is our ICWA case manager.
That's
we
it.
move on to the consent agenda.
Okay, we've got the consent agenda. Approve personnel policy change for this year regarding the election. Offices will be open on June 12th. Offices will be closed July 10th for the new primary election, and offices will also be closed on September 18th for the new general election. The other consent agenda item is appointed Leanne Donnell to the General Election Board with Janet Thompson as the alternate. Approve the Bois Forte All Hazards Mitigation Plan, and approve the sole source request from Pam Hughes to purchase travel cards from the Northern Eagle Federal Credit Union for the International Falls Youth Trip to Valley Fair and Sky Zone. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Ray. Is there a second? Seconded by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
First, we have Melissa Wright, Amanda Calmbacher, and Angela Hirsh for a traditional healing demonstration pilot project.
Good morning, ladies.
So we're just looking for the council's support, and I'm gonna have the ladies kind of explain more about this pilot. But basically, it's looking at being able for tribes only to build for traditional healing practices. But I'm gonna like I said, let them kind of explain more, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what it is. So, we're just looking for your support in it. And also, I know like some of the other tribes are looking at it, supporting it as well, so but I'm gonna let them explain a little bit more about it to kind of give you guys a little bit more information on it.
Guzu. My name is Amanda Calmbacher, and I work for the Department of Human Services in the Behavioral Health Division.
And I'm Angie Hirsh. I'm the American Indian Mental Health Coordinator. Thank you. So, actually, this started out at the, so we have the Minnesota American Indian Mental Health Advisory Council, and basically there's a seat for all 11 tribes, and then 4 urban seats, and they basically advise the Department of Human Services on mental health issues. And this group has been talking with us about the value of traditional healing for many, many years. And so we finally have a time where we feel like it's a good time to really push it forward. And, with basically the direction of the advisory council, they've asked us to gather information and see if there's a way that we can, have some kind of way to support traditional healing, and really acknowledging that it's, we've been doing this for many, many generations. Before Western medicine came here, we took care of ourselves, and the last 50 years since we've been gathering data about health disparities, nothing has gotten better with the system we have. So, the group really thinks that this is, and I agree, of course, that this is a good way to go. So what we're doing now is we've been gathering information. There have been other states that have moved forward with this, and Amanda can say more about that detail. But really, we're in the beginning stages, and it's a really sensitive issue about payment and traditional healing, and it's just, and I don't have to tell all of you about how, all of the really sensitive issues around it. And so we're going forward, the council is going forward as with all of that in mind, and we don't want to do anything that wouldn't be in a good way. So and
I have one question.
Yep.
Is there any other tribes or states that are right now reimbursing for traditional healing services that you're aware of?
Yes, right now New Mexico has 4
Okay.
managed care organizations that have opted to provide a benefit to any tribal member. And what they've been able to do is to really build in autonomy into that benefit. And they've been able to provide a payment of money to any person that's interested in accessing that money to use toward traditional healing. So it may be used for ceremonies and things like that. And they don't have to share the name of the healer or what ceremony they are participating in. So that's one kind of example. Also, Arizona, the state of Arizona submitted both what's called an 1115 waiver to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, as well as a state plan amendment. And those are 2 different ways of reimbursing for traditional healing. We're also aware of Utah, Michigan, and California. They have different models, but for example, California and Michigan have implemented and overseen a SAMHSA grant, so a federal grant that has integrated traditional healing into the service model. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, question. So those states you mentioned, do they have special state grants then to pay for the billing of
Yes. So in New Mexico, because it's through the managed care organizations, it's considered what's called a capitated lump sum. So it's a sum of money, a pot of money that the state gives to each managed care organization, and then they use at their discretion to pay for that traditional healing benefit. And then the SAMHSA grant that I mentioned, that would be the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. That's a federal agency, so that money is federal money rather than state. Oh, Anishinaabe Circles of Care or
Okay.
Circles of Healing. And what was the other? And then Arizona, so they submitted 2 options to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. One was an 1115 waiver. One was a state plan amendment. The 1115 waiver would be federal money. And then a state plan amendment would be, it actually would be 100% federal financial participation. So that's how those kind of funding streams work.
Well, I imagine your ultimate goal is to get the medical insurance companies involved, but it sounds like that's probably a long way off. So you're starting with government assistance first, and so we'd probably be working, you're probably working closely with our state legislature.
Yes,
or
sir.
will be.
Yes, thank you for the question. We, under the direction of the council, they have asked that we do what's called a demonstration pilot. So that would be grant funded through the state legislature. And right now we're doing like a fiscal analysis and looking at how much we would be asking for. And right now, the ultimate goal would be to create a Medicaid benefit, which in the long term would be 100% paid by the federal government. No state has successfully done it to date, but as I mentioned, there are a number of states that are in the process in moving in that direction.
So this is a state grant that you're pursuing then?
Yes.
To begin with.
Yes, so we want to support the council and tribal nations with pursuing a legislative proposal next session.
So, in
Go
order
ahead.
to get get services into Medicaid benefits, we have to prove that it works. And, you know, we all know that it works, so that shouldn't be very difficult. But
No.
that's why it's a demonstration pilot.
I just have a question regarding the resolution. Do you plan on taking this resolution to the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe and Indian Affairs Council? Okay. Good. And I think, I agree with you, I think now is the time to do this, considering that a lot of tribes are showing that with the opioid epidemic, that healing centers, not treatment centers, but healing centers incorporate both the mental health component, the traditional healing component, the culture and the substance use, the chemical dependency, it's all into one. And so I think now is the time to do this. So I think it's a wonderful idea. Any other questions for the ladies?
So then this would cover the person providing the service, I mean, the healing ceremony, and that would cover the, like the
costs associated.
Yep.
spiritual advisor, or the spiritual person that gonna be providing the care for that patient. Is
And
that
also
something
like-
that will go through IHS or something like that, so the dollars like that could be used to cover that expense too? Or-
And I just want to add, and you have more detailed information about it, but we also met with with folks from New Zealand, and they actually do this in New Zealand. They've been doing that for a while.
Sure. So we met with a consulting firm called Whanotahi, and they have a federal policy in New Zealand to provide traditional healing services to their Maori population, their indigenous population, which is 15% compared to Minnesota at 2%. And they have been able to create a way to translate traditional healing into kind of a westernized culture, like the Department of Human Services and like our biomedical model, so that Western-minded people and healers can see the value and understand and be able to translate the value of traditional healing into that kind of Western frame. So we are also consulting with them and working with them.
Awesome. I think it's a great idea. If no other comments or questions, I'll call for a motion to approve the resolution to work in partnership with the Department of Human Services on this demonstration project. Moved by Dave. Is there a second?
I got one question as far as what I kind of get the gist of what this is and what it's about, but maybe we should. It is a touchy subject. It's like you said, it's not just touchy here, it's touchy everywhere. And you have to understand and follow the culture to understand that these types of things have to be looked at in detail and maybe discussed with your people, with the people that do follow the traditional ways, because in a way it looks like the intent is good, but on the flip side of that, people will look at it like we're paying for things that really should be sacred and not about money, not about hurry into a situation to try fix something that was done through many years of to me it looks like it's a good intent by some people, but on the other side it looks like we're rushing in like, oh, this solves this problem and maybe satisfies or shuts up this group. And to me, that none of that should be hand in hand. I think it's a very, very serious matter for those that still try to learn and follow the traditions. And I'm one of them. And so personally, I would like to see what the other people think about it and get that approval first. Granted, who knows, maybe 80% of our band doesn't understand or doesn't care to learn, but some of us do.
Just one question. With this traditional healing demonstration pilot, you will be consulting with traditional healers and spiritual people with regards to how it will be. Okay.
Yeah, and we have been, just not widespread, because we've only been working on this for a little while, but we do intend to talk to more people and make sure that it's not, we're doing it in a good way. We have heard concerns, and so one of the main concerns that we've heard is that we don't want to document we have this system in MA where where documentation is really important, and we can't move forward with this if we have to document what is happening in a sacred space.
I'd just like to comment, and in taking what Brandon said is very true.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking your purpose here is it's a starting point. You're looking for a demonstration grant, take into consideration all the things that Brandon has said to see if it will actually work.
Right.
So you're not saying, well, here we're setting up a plan for how we're going to do billing for a healing ceremony and such.
Right.
As you do your research, you might find, hey, healing ceremonies
Don't
are
belong here.
off
Yeah.
limits.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of where Brandon was going.
Yep.
So I think if we support this, it's in the frame of mind that, hey, you're still studying this and you're going to come up with some conclusions whether you should do this or not. For certain things, maybe you'll include things and you'll exclude sacred issues, so. But other than that, I would say go forward with your demonstration grant, see where it takes you. But it's not an end; it's a starting point.
Right.
Long way to go.
Barb?
I have to agree with Brandon. I don't think that the right process was taken. I think that the elders should have been consulted. I think that our spiritual leaders should have been consulted first. And as an elder, I don't feel comfortable with this. Our spiritual healings are sacred, and from my understanding, they are to be not paid for. That's something that the families, that's our responsibilities. And so I don't think I don't think the process has been followed the right way. I don't think that and it might be a good idea, but I don't think it's a good idea for us. Our community is in crisis right now for a lot of different reasons, and I think if we enter into this, we're just asking for more trouble.
Thank you. There is a motion on the floor made by Dave. Do we have a second? Thank you, Barb. Oh, I'm sorry, Pam.
So, I sit on the advisory council for alcohol and drugs, and this has been being talked about for years. The way I viewed it was that when we talk about it happening, like at our advisory council meetings, is because our communities are already providing that. And where the question began was, if we're providing that, why aren't we able to be reimbursed for it? Because one of the beliefs are that our culture is prevention and our traditions are treatment. And so I know when we've spoke about it, we have included, you know, because on our advisory councils, we have elders from, you know, different reservations. So there was a lot of thought and time put into it. I know coming from the Mental Health Advisory Council, and I can speak for myself for our substance use program here, Virgil had a lot of input into our traditions and stuff. And it was because years ago, I had a problem with funding sources asking us to evaluate our culture. And so one of the, I would always reference our sweat lodges, you know, where how are we to evaluate what somebody is taking out of a sweat lodge? So that was always a concern of mine, because it's not our own people evaluating what are people that are trying to get healthy and, you know, getting involved in our traditions and our culture, our language. So for me, I think it's a start. I don't believe it's something that the councils, the advisory councils, are wanting to just jump into, but because our programs are trying to provide those culturally appropriate services, and we just feel that we should be able to be reimbursed for that. That our healers, our spiritual advisors, that they don't need a degree from a college, you know, because we can't put a dollar value on that. And so, you know, I always try to explain, like with spiritual advisors, our healers, our Medays, you know, where we have the colors, and each color represents something, which would be, to me, is no different than a level of a college degree, you know, because they've earned that. And so that's where I know it has been being discussed for years on how, as we, as, you know, the tribal nations, can we start being reimbursed for what we're trying to provide to our people. You know, I agree with what Brandon is saying, because we don't just want someone to come in and start telling us how to do our culture, because that's happened too many times to us, you know. And that's why the advisory councils are so important, because that's what we try to do, is to advise DHS on what our needs are for our people, because we're the ones out there doing that groundwork. You know, we see it day in and day out. You know, like, we're seeing the effects of opiates, what's happening to our people. And I just, for me, it's just, I think it's a start. I don't believe that it's something that they're saying, we're gonna do this. There's a lot of years that have led up to that point where now, you know, it is where we're gonna ask the legislators, you know, and let them know this is what we need for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Just have one other comment, and just listening to the speakers, and I'm thinking about the title of your resolution here, and it's like you're using the word demonstration pilot, and to me it sounds like what people are saying here is we don't want you to do a study to tell us how this is going to be done. I know we need to do a study to see what the feasibility is. So I think I think the terminology you should use is feasibility study, rather than a demonstration, because a demonstration implies somebody's going to come in and tell us, this is how you're going to do it, this is how you're going to bill, and this is what you can bill for.
Yep.
So feasibility might be the look at it.
I agree with that too, exactly. And really the only reason why we use demonstration grant is because that's the DHS terminology for it. But we can get rid of that too.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rhonda?
You know, I think this is a really good idea. We have a hard time getting our younger ones in participation with things and demonstration or whatever. It's a start. And I think, you know, a lot of this is given to us and it's taught to us. I mean, I don't see them as being, trying in any way to be disrespectful or anything like that. And, you know, we do need more people in this. You know, we have very few that know this. And I think this is a great way to start it. We have, for our younger to even learn, you know? It's something we pass on.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Them coming in and saying this, and I just recently joined, so coming in, I just didn't want to also be the only say, and that's kind of why we brought it back here too, is just to kind of bring it to the table. It is very sensitive topic, so it's just good to kind of open up that conversation, and I'm really glad that we've had some comments, because this shouldn't be just one person. We need to bring it back to our bands to kind of talk about it. So.
Well, we still have a motion on the floor made by Dave. Is there a second? Would you be willing to change the terminology on the resolution to feasibility study? Okay.
Then I will second it if you.
With the
do that
change to the
change.
language? As not a demonstration grant, but a feasibility study. So we'll change the terminology.
That's what we'll approve anyhow.
That's what we will approve.
But you can bring it back to your group and they may say, no, that's not what we want.
But we'll
guess
approve a
that's-
if it's changed to feasibility, okay, yeah. It's Bois, Fortes. So we have a motion on the floor, and with the change from traditional healing demonstration pilot to a feasibility study, traditional healing feasibility study. Motion by Dave. Are you okay with that change, Dave? Yeah. Is there a second? Seconded by Ray. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, ladies.
Okay,
We
thank
look
you.
forward to hearing more from you.
Next, we have Sidra with a contract for MV Customs for the EMP food distribution renovation.
Good morning, Sidra.
So if you recall, a few meetings ago, we brought to you the bids for the ENP food distribution renovation that's being funded by the ICDBG grant. And the bids came in. We awarded to MB Customs, but we sent it back to MB to have them refigure his bids because it was still higher than what our budget allowed. He still was the low bid, but we needed him to do some value engineering in order to get the price down that would fit our budget. And he has done that. And so at this time, we would like to go ahead and award the contract officially to MB Customs in the amount of $622,000 to cover the renovation of the ENP and the food distribution buildings.
Any questions on this? Not, I'll call for a motion. Go ahead.
I just had one that's.
Ray.
This is an agreement to hire MB Customs.
That's correct.
It looks like are we approving an AIA document?
That's correct. That's just a basic general contract agreement between a construction contract agreement.
I see the architect is on there already, and we've already hired them.
We've already,
They've done the work.
yep, that's correct. We've already instituted a contract between them, and that was,
Is that part of the total amount?
no, that's a separate contract. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve the contract with MB Customs for the E&P food distribution renovation in the amount of $622,000, made by Ray. Is there a second? Second by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried.
Miigwech.
Thank you, Sidra.
Thank you, Sidra. Next, we have Pam Hughes with a MMIS provider statement, an agreement for an evaluation for the International Falls Program, housing support agreement, an amended SOAR contract.
Holy. Morning, Pam.
Good morning. Okay, so the first one is the MMIS provider statement. And what this is needed for is so that we can enter our CPAs to generate our own service agreements, because we currently have to fill out the CPA form, send it to DHS, and then wait for them to come back. This is just going to be a lot easier, because if we need to make changes in them or whatever, we can just log in and go ahead and make the changes, because without our service agreements, we can't do billing. So both Adam and I have done the training for this.
Okay.
Adam will be the main person that will be entering the CPAs in, and then I will be the backup person.
And CPA meaning client
Client placement
Placement
agreement.
agreement? Okay. So it deals with treatment.
Yep.
Moved by Ray to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trav. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried.
Okay, so the next one is the agreement for Melinda Dertinger. She's currently a student at UMD, and she is willing to do our program evaluations for the International Falls Prevention Program and the Bois Forte Prevention Program, as we have to have outside program evaluations every year.
Yep. This is a requirement of the
grant.
programs,
Yep.
right? Okay. And there's, of course, money in the budget to cover this.
Yes.
Okay, do I call for a motion to approve the agreement with Melinda Dertinger, is that how you say it? For the Bois Forte and International Falls program evaluations? Yep.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We get copies of the,
I can send them to you.
Yeah.
have we ever,
No,
ever seen?
not to the council.
Okay.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Okay, because
Yeah.
then they're due to DHS by August 31st.
Okay,
And so, part of the thing for our evaluations, we do different surveys at our activities. So that's one of the things that she pulls together and compiles, and it's just making sure that we are doing our program goals and objectives.
okay,
But yeah, I
Yeah,
can send that to you.
please do. No. Moved by Ray to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trav. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, silent, motion carried. Okay,
Okay, so the next one is the housing support agreements, which was formerly GRH. And this is for, it would include all of New Moon, and then the 4 homeless duplexes in Nett Lake. And so the rates have went up this year from what we had last year. So what happens is, when this agreement, once it's signed, I also have to send in the vendor profiles. So like at New Moon, each unit has to have their own vendor profile. And then the actual building that has the 8 one-bedroom units is under one vendor profile.
Okay.
So if, in here, it does say, you know, what we would get reimbursed. So there is,
Is that under room and board?
yes. So that did go up. Last year it was 8 something. This
Let's-
year it's 904 a month.
Yeah.
And then we'll also get the supplemental for providing the supportive services, which is $482.84 a month.
Is that going to the providers and the case managers?
Yes.
Is that are providing the services?
Correct. And the room and board is actually, this is more or less kind of a, if you want to say, a rental subsidy,
Okay.
you know, because we need to really start looking at finding other sources, because we're going to have a new governor, and that governor could very well say that the operating expense dollars are no longer there. So what the staff does is they do, when we have new tenants coming in, they do fill out the applications, and we actually have 2 people that are contacts at St. Louis County where our applications go. And then we also, they are having all of the tenants fill out Section 8 too.
Okay.
Just in case if that operating grant isn't there.
So when these, just for clarification for people that may be watching, the homeless people that go into these homes are eligible for this funding to help pay their rent and to obtain services?
If they qualify.
If they qualify. So they aren't paying rent. This, if they qualify for services, this helps them get back on their feet.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Ray.
Now, our new units being built, I understand, are they, would they be covered with the, I think we're going to have another 4
Homeless
homeless
ones.
units
We
now?
can add them,
Will those be
yes.
covered by this?
Once they're-
We can add the vendor profile.
Once they're
Because we would
complete,
have
yeah.
to wait, you know, till they're open and get the actual physical address. Because on the vendor profile sheet, we have to have the actual physical address, and then, you know, how many beds. So normally, if we have a 2-bedroom unit, we consider it 2 beds. 3-bedroom, 3 beds.
So
And
we-
So we can still add units
Yes.
as we go
Yes.
along.
Just so we identify in the profile that
Yes,
we have these
Okay.
units.
yes.
We can't try to bill for them and then later, after, they're not aware that we have these units.
No, because if they're a new unit, we can just fill out additional vendor profile forms to send in. And so like at DHS, my contacts that I contact for this are Jeremy Galley or Jane Lorenz.
Okay.
Because I was gonna even ask Jeremy about the new units over in Vermillion.
Yes.
They may qualify for housing support. I don't know what kind of dollars were used to build it. I don't know if those are tax credit homes but I had thought about that, asking if, you know, if that's something our Bois Forte Housing could do, the housing supports.
But you are looking into that, right?
I've thought about it. I haven't not
Well, that
asked.
was my understanding, that
Oh, designated for homeless.
Yes.
Any other questions for Pam? Has Mark reviewed this too? Okay. If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the housing support agreement, formerly known as group residential housing. Moved by David, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trav. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, silent, motion carried. Okay, Pam?
Okay, so the next one is the amended SOAR contract. There's just a couple better clarifications in there. Because we already have a contract, this would be the amended one. And What SOAR is where we can help homeless individuals fill out the applications for disability, Social Security disability. So we get so much dollars if we help somebody fill it out, and then if they're approved, we get additional dollars. So an example I could use is I helped an individual, and she ended up being approved for Social Security, received a little over $20,000 in back pay,
Nice.
and also had a child. And so when we were first notified that she was approved and then was receiving this back pay, I didn't realize, I knew that the child would be getting something, but I just thought it was all encompassed in what she had received. But a letter then came, and so she had to take the child to the Hibbing office and produce the birth certificate and everything. So anyways, so the child, you know, is now going to get half of what her monthly rate is, but is going to get a little over $10,000 in back pay. So it does help, because with that person, you know, that person was kind of able to get back on their feet, get themselves a reliable vehicle. So I mean, you know, some don't go that quick. It's just, you know, how you're, because it does involve a lot of work, because you have to request the medical records and work history. And so I received a lot of help from Don Holman and Jane Lorenz on when I was helping this individual. And so listening to them and pointing me in the right direction, I feel helped, you know, where it didn't even get to that point where we had to appeal it.
These disability apps are very long and tedious, and a lot of it depends on memory, I guess, from the individuals with regards to their work history, their where they've been seen for medical providers, hospitals and clinics and everything else. So I think it's a great program. Also, my question, Pam, is what is being amended in this contract then? What are
So if you look at the, there's a cover page. So it just, one of the things, it's extending our contract.
Okay.
Till 2020.
Okay.
You know, but it's going to provide, you know, clarification of client eligibility. Like when I was working with Jane and Dawn, they actually sent me a list of illnesses that you, when you have those, you will automatically qualify for Social Security. So, you know, it's extending, like when you can upload stuff, things. So it's more or less, well, one of them is too, the whole appeal process.
Okay.
For individuals. And right now we have, Tracy is, received the training to do the applications. Karina has, Adam has, and Cheryl Gagne. And they're all going to, a hands-on training in Bemidji.
Okay.
For more updates, and then I believe Waynette from Melissa's program.
Okay. Good. Okay, good. Any other questions for Pam? Not, I'll call for a motion to approve the amended SOAR contract. Moved by Dave, is there a second? Second by Ray. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Good job, Pam. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Next, we have Donna with an appointment to the Northern St. Louis Family Services Collaborative Board of Directors.
Good morning.
Good morning, Donna.
If you recall, a while back, the county came for appointment. Actually, it was education, and Anyway, the council requested that another person be
Yeah.
added from Health and Human Services, so I'm here to recommend Melissa Wright.
And then Emily Barter would be the alternate.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Brandon to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trav. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Next, we have Panda with VAWA Special Projects for the Tribal Reservation. Approval of an attorney consultant.
Good morning. Okay. Okay. I have, our Victim Services has posted a RFP that was posted on May 3rd, and the duration was for 10 days until May 16th. And we have received 3 proposals, and we have evaluated them. We had made up an evaluation sheet according to some of the recommendations we were looking for in their proposals. And we have one proposal that had scored the highest, which would be the one we would want to hire. And then we did have one that was submitted after the due date.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your recommendation, Panda, is for Michael Murphy,
It would be, yep, Jacobson
Law Group.
All native companies?
Yep.
All native companies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, there.
I did provide a copy of the RFP and.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, Michael Murphy scored 100 points.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Jacobson Law Group was also the same firm that we used previously on our special projects, so.
Move to approve,
Motion to approve Michael Murphy through the Jacobson Law Group made by Ray. Is there a second? Second by Dave. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Good
Thank you,
job,
Panda.
Panda.
Okay.
Next, we have Barb Burdine with resolutions for
Oh,
leases, cancellations, new residential lease, and modification.
good morning, Barb.
Good morning. The first one I have is a lease cancellation for John and Brigitta Mihelich. They're on Lot 45, Block 2. Address is 1330 Tibbetts Trail.
They're selling their residence.
Yes.
Move to approve made by Travis. Is there a second? Seconded by Ray. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Next, I have a new residential lease for James and Kathleen Mihelich. They are buying the property at Lot 45, Block 2, 1330 Tibbetts Trail.
Do we have a motion to approve the new residential lease for James and Kathleen Mihelich? Moved by Travis. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Brandon. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Next, I have a lease modification for Jonathan Letty. He is wishing to add Brianna Letty and delete himself, and also to change the annual rent from $1 to $0.
Who's Brianna?
Why wouldn't we just
Because when I called Mark Anderson, it's easier to do a lease modification rather than him canceling and her applying for it, because we have a waiting list of 25 people currently. And they're married, so,
Okay.
that is a difference.
Big difference.
mhm.
Do we have a motion to approve the lease modification made by Ray? Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trav. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Good job.
Yep, thank you. Next, we have Jenny Rowland and Sue Larson on the contract for DOT drug and alcohol collection services.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Oh, you're putting me on. I thought I was just here for backup. So the transit has a separate DOT drug and alcohol program that we run. We have a outside contractor that oversees the data collection, and they help us if we have we've gone through a FTA audit on that, and they maintain our records. So we worked with the clinic and got both clinics certified as DOT collection sites. And so this is pretty standard contract to pay the clinic when they do those services for the transit program.
Okay. Otherwise, you'd be paying an outside vendor for those services, correct?
Right, because when we have to do like a PBT for alcohol, we have to send them out to the Cook Scenic River Clinic, and we pay them.
Okay.
And we've just kind of implemented this contract starting now. We have not had a contract in the past with
Okay.
where we've done the collections for, Wilderness or Fortune Bay or Big Woods. And so if, we're looking at, obviously, next year trying to start getting accredited. So if auditors come in, we have to have documentation that says this is why we're billing these different departments these amount of dollars. So
Okay.
Jenny is the first one to get it signed.
Oh, okay, good. We're right there. Makes sense. Do we have any questions for Sue or Jenny? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve
You
the
always do a good job, Jenny.
contract.
Move.
Moved by Brandon. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trav. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried. Good job, ladies.
Thank you.
Holy.
Next, we have Kim Greiner with the collection of the 1854 authority fines, unknown no POs, Fortune Bay invoices, and accounts receivable write-offs for deceased.
Morning, Kim.
some information from Mark Anderson as we were working on our other collection policies. And we were talking about full faith and credit amongst the 6 Minnesota Chippewa tribal courts, and possibility of asking for that. He had also mentioned that at the 1854 authority, they have a court and people get court fines, but they have no mechanism to collect for it. And so he had, at one time, had given some information at a meeting, I don't know how long ago it was, at an 1854 meeting, and there's one that was kind of the example that he gave, and then the second one was, I took the bottom part where the example was and put Bois Forte in. And what this would do is that once there was a court fine from the 1854 authority, they would submit it to our court and they would issue a writ of execution. And once we had the writ of execution, then it opens up the possibility of collecting those fines from the per capita payments, or if they're an employee through like the arrears policy or garnishment of their checks. It's not a large number. I think there was 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Because I think, were you in there when I was talking to him on the phone, or?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, there was like 3 or 4, and so that they've been unable to collect on. And so I just said I would bring it forward, and if you guys wish to.
I guess personally, I would like to see it passed myself that we do that, because right now the 1854, if individuals violate the 1854 hunting gathering code and they're charged, there really isn't a mechanism in place to collect that fine or whatever if they go through the 1854 court. And basically they'll kind of get off scot-free. There's no teeth to it, I guess, in my mind. And I think this would be a good way to do it for our band members. And, you know, maybe if we start doing that, then more people will take heed of disobeying the code. And yes, Tara?
Everything would go back to the 1854.
Any idea how much is outstanding now?
No, I didn't ask that. There, you know, when we were talking about it, I think the individuals that currently have fines on the books were the ones, didn't he say that they were the ones that had stole all that
Birch poles?
birch
Yeah.
poles and stuff?
Can we, I think there's some long outstanding charges. Can we go, is there a, can we go back, or is there limitations on how far in the past?
I cannot answer that. If there's no statute of limitations, yes, you can. I know on the tribal court level, there, or on the tribal government level, there is no statute of limitations, but I don't know if there is one in the codes for 1854 authority.
For Mark, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we should, I know there's some that have been sitting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that's the reason we're doing it, because there's no teeth
No.
in it, and violation, and you become accountable.
Right. You know, I think this part is a no-brainer as far as the 1854 violation used with, you know, to use the teeth of the 1854 payments. You know, that one is a no-brainer. And, you know, one thing when you're calling Mark, you know, I would also like to see if there's any validity to, you know, people raising questions about the other garnishments, the other of the per capitas. And I've heard it a few times. It sounds like people have studied that, and I'd like to know what, you know, what they're reading, and it seems like, you know, we should have that right in front of us as far as is it an agreement between the state of Minnesota and the band members itself, or is it an agreement between the state of Minnesota and the Bois Forte government? I think those are two separate things, and so I'd like some clarification on that. And
Sure, I can get
you
that
know,
for you.
that's why I never answered or voted on the garnishment stuff. So.
Any questions regarding the 1854 authority fines? Any more for Kim? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve for that collection of, for the 1854 authority. Call for a motion again.
Move.
Moved by Brandon. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Travis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Silent? Motion carried.
The next item I have is items from charges at Fortune Bay that we don't know what program they belong to, or if they're ours. We've been working quite a bit with Fortune Bay because there was quite a bit of outstanding. We've cleaned up a lot of it. On there, part of the problem is we've told Fortune Bay that they need to have purchase orders for anything charged over there except for two things. And that one is through Pam's program for her emergency housing. And the other one, you do have a purchase order, but for when the council, WICO does do a purchase order for you for your charges there, and then we do that. But the only way I can tell if it's a tribal council meeting is I have to go back and look at WICO's schedule she sends out, and I see if there's a meeting scheduled or not. And then if there isn't, I don't know. A lot of these, you know, we had to get, they had to go dig through their records because they weren't providing us like with the slips that people would sign so we could ask, or, you know, stuff like that. So I had highlighted the items in yellow that I suggest we pay. The ones in orange most likely probably pay because I think they were related to the state of the band. And then the rest I'm unsure of, so that's what I'm looking for direction on. And I had numbered the items. There's 21 items that we're down to. We probably had close to 100 that we were going through over the last 3 months that we cleaned up. But like, I'd like to use example 13 and 14. those people were contractors for KBFT. KBFT is not permitted to pay for rooms for it, and they were supposed to have paid for their own rooms. KBFT staff made the reservation for them, but they didn't charge the customer when they left. They charged us. So that's, so that's the examples I'm using, so it's not, so I am meeting with Fortune Bay, Mike Lombardi and Brad Anderson tomorrow morning, and we're gonna work through a better process and better communication. It has improved, but I just need direction what to do with the balance of the ones that are not highlighted. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah, we have to, we're working on our side with the staff, trying to train them. But we also have to train Fortune Bay not to accept, charges without a purchase order. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that you had met with them, so. Mm-hmm. That's. Yeah. Well, yeah, because like these, I don't know if they're really those people who said that, because, anyone could call up and say, pretend to be you, and if they don't know the, the person at the front desk, and says, oh, yeah, go ahead and let them have a room. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I know there is one that Corey had looked up this morning, that might be a meeting, yeah. But I have no way of knowing that, because like I said, I go off the calendar WICO sends out, and I have all of them, and so that's how I try to match stuff up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they weren't, Fortune Bay wasn't sending those slips with it. They are now. I know, that's why I'm meeting with them tomorrow. We're working on it, but I just want direction what to do with the rest. Some of them we have, but not all of them. I mean, there were had some. Mm-hmm. Okay. But is it okay to pay the ones in the yellow and the orange? And then work on the rest? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, you know, it it was a very, very, you know, lax process over there when you look at how it used to be 10, 12 years ago. You could get anything you wanted. I remember hearing of somebody getting these all of these rooms with flowers and gifts put on the beds, you know, around election time, you know. And it's, you know, you have to clean all of this stuff up, and the comp policy that's happening over at Fortune Bay, it's going to take a little bit for people to understand that ain't how it is anymore. You know, you got things like for whatever it is, the powwow or whatever. I just heard recently that some people wanted 4 extra rooms, you know, for a funeral. And, you know, that's a sad time, you know, for anybody. But what makes you more important to get 3 or 4 more extra rooms than the person that just had a funeral last week? And that's the mentality that we have to stop. It's been going on for years and years, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're in this predicament. And people need to remember that. They need to figure it out, that this is just keeps forging, and somewhere we need to stop it. And that's how it is. So
Well, I'll pay, if you put in a motion to pay the highlighted ones and to research the remaining ones and bring it back at the next council meeting. That's fine with me. I just wanted direction, that's all.
Move.
And my last item is to write off deceased customers' accounts as an internal control process. Anything we write off, we bring to the tribal council for permission. These people are all deceased. Some of them had some significant balances. Mm. 37. Mm-hmm. They have already been set up as uncollectible. You know, we had already determined that, so it's been recorded in the we just have to permanently write them off, yeah.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing else on the agenda. Thank you, Kim.
Second.